Welcome to Mattys Mental Health Podcast, aiming to spread awareness on mental health by sharing the real-life stories. Katherine Cairns is here today.
Hello.
How you doing, Katherine?
I am well. How are you?
Doing swell.
Swell.
Yeah.
One better than well.
Yep.
With an additional
There's
letter.
a W and an S.
Well, well has the W.
Don't question me on that, okay?
Happy to be
I'm
here.
trying my best. All right, we're here at Virtual Creations Studio in Charlottetown. It's a new studio, and happy to be here. Happy to have you here.
Thank you. It's a very nice studio. We are here outside, near the outside.
Yeah, we're some nice windows here, some couches behind us, and beautiful scenery. We're actually in South Carolina, I think, right now. But thank you for coming on, by the way.
Thank you for having me.
How's everything been going?
What's everything?
You know, like your whole life. And
My whole life. How's my whole life going? Yeah. Everything's going really good lately, actually.
Yeah?
It's hard to get used to sometimes, like when things go well, being happy and being able to accept that nothing's going wrong right now.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because sometimes like things have been going wrong for so long that when they start to go right, you're just going, wait, when's it going to end? When am I going to feel bad again?
You're always suspicious, right?
Yeah, which means you can't really enjoy the time when you're feeling good because you're always going like, when's the shoe going to drop? When's this over?
You know what's weird, too? I think that's almost like a self-sabotaging trap that people fall into where things have gone wrong for so long, maybe even their whole life, where it's like they can't handle things going well, so they want to self-sabotage. It's like following into previous pattern.
That does make sense because then you start doing what's comfortable, which is being negative. But I've worked so hard to get out of all that stuff, so I should be feeling good.
Yeah.
So I should just enjoy it, maybe.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit because I'm happy to have you here. You volunteered to come on from your own will.
I did.
Didn't force her.
There was no like, does this smell like chloroform to you? That didn't happen.
You wanted to come on, so we should mention you're a stand-up comedian. We're friends. We started doing stand-up comedy the same night.
The same night. We are comedy twins.
Comedy twins. When was that? 3 years ago or something?
Yeah, it would have been just about 3 years ago in the nose. It was March.
Yeah.
Other people keep track of the exact day that they started comedy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a Monday in March in 20-something.
Yeah. I didn't even know how many years. I was hoping that you knew because
Yeah, it's 3.
I sent you that thing earlier.
It is 3.
3 years. I didn't know if it was 2 or 3.
Yes.
But yeah, you wanted to come on and share some of your story, and yeah, why don't you kind of get into it, maybe a little bit about some of the things you've been through and some of the, your journey with mental health.
I thought it was a good time because everyone keeps saying it's Autism Awareness Month, but we prefer Autism Acceptance Month because everyone knows pretty much now what autism is, and it's just, yeah, it's that month where so much misinformation gets spread about autistic people and everybody weigh in. You see that puzzle piece everywhere, and so I thought it would be a good time to chat with an actual autistic person instead of people talking about it. But
Maybe
yeah,
we could jump into that really quick. Like, what's the misinformation?
a lot of people tend to put like a negative spin on like autistic traits. So like they'll say like odd repetitive behavior. What's odd? Like define what odd is,
Yeah,
or like we're not supposed to stim. Stimming is like self-stimulating behavior. It helps me to calm down. So when I'm in public, I try and hold it in so that I look like everybody else. So I look neurotypical, but really I like want to rock back and forth all the time and like move my hips around all the time. But I have to like stay still. And so there's all like these traits that they don't like and they wish that they would go away. And like you have to learn to make eye contact. Making eye contact is very difficult for me, like especially when I'm trying to think of the next thing I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
I can't look, like I've said to you before, like on open mic nights when you've asked me to explain something to you and I'm like looking at the wall and I've had to tell you like I'm engaged, but I'm over there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that people don't understand. Like they look at these behaviors and they see negative things as opposed to it's just a different way for somebody to be.
Right. I'm just thinking that must have been like, you've told me a little bit, like you didn't find out till you had it till you were, was it 35?
Yeah, again, I'm not good with numbers. It was somewhere like between 34 and 36, somewhere in there. I figured it out. I always thought I was a complete mess my entire life. Well, I was objectively a complete mess my entire life, because when you don't know the label of what it is, you don't know what to work with. Like, I don't think symptoms are useful in, like, if you let them keep you down and you're like, well, it's because of this and it's because of that. Like, but they're really good way to figure out what you need to work on.
Yeah.
So it was like giving me or like even just what your different traits are, and a way to look at things differently. So it was like it finally described me.
Yeah.
And I looked at me on paper and went, oh, like that explains everything.
Yeah.
And it was like overnight, I didn't feel like a failed human being anymore.
Yeah.
It was just a different human being, and I had to get used to that. But it explained everything.
It must have been weird even just thinking about what you described there with like the STEM, like stimulating yourself, like, and being in public and having like contain that. Like that must have been so weird, like not knowing what that really was.
The funny thing is, like, because I never knew what it was, and like your parents will always be like, sit still and don't move. So I learned not to. But in learning, it's called, like, we call it masking. We learn to mask our autistic traits to make ourselves more palatable to other people when we're outside the house. Yeah. So I didn't notice that I wasn't doing the movements I wanted to do, but I would end up feeling very anxious. Because it got to the point where I was trained. And this is what they do with some children now. They try and train the behaviors out of them. But these are a way that we get anxiety out of our body when you're autistic, is by moving around. So you're just turning the person into a ball of anxious energy if you don't let them do the thing their body naturally wants to do.
Right.
Yeah.
I imagine it's probably like, it feels like a physiological level where you just like the way you described it, it almost sounds like it's just like involuntary almost.
Yeah, if I were to let myself go, like I've masked for so long that I'm never sure when I'm outside of the house, like how much is me and how much is masking, which is why it can be a really detrimental thing to do to yourself, is to learn to fit in and always be neurotypical as opposed to being neurodiverse. Mm-hmm. Because there's so many things going on for me in a conversation. Like right now I'm saying to myself, make sure you look at him, but don't look at him directly in the eyes. That frightens people. And look away a little bit and then look back. And now what was I saying and what was I thinking of? And is that my voice? And how am I hearing that? Like so many things like that I'm trying to keep up with while I'm having a conversation with you in order to make you feel like we are having a normal conversation between two monkeys. But the monkey that I am wants to like look over here and have this conversation with you. And then I feel a lot better.
Yeah.
Because eyes are terrifying things.
Windows to the soul.
Yeah. I don't want to see everybody's soul.
You're seeing mine.
It's dark.
Well, feel free to stare off into the pastures at any point if you want to think about what you're saying. Or
I'm very focused on these weird stem lights.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful land out here.
Here in South Carolina.
South Carolina.
It's beautiful. Yeah, on this traveling mental health podcast.
Yeah. So when's the earliest you can remember like feeling some of these things?
Again, like it's when you're autistic, because it was born that way. So like, when did I notice I was different than everybody else is maybe a good question. Yeah. When I went to school and they put me around the other little monkeys. I could never fit in with the other kids. And I went to an all-girls private school, which is its own kind of nightmare for anybody to have to go through. But when you don't understand social stuff, it's like going to school with a pack of jackals. They find the weak one and they attack them. And I didn't know what they were doing or what they meant or any of the social stuff. So I would go home every day, like the entire half-hour car ride home in tears every day. Because that was when I noticed I was different. When I'm not around other people, like I wouldn't notice because there's nothing to compare it to.
Right. Did you go right from the jump, like grade 1 to the all-girls school?
That was, Well, no, now you're making me remember things. I guess I'm old at 41, and now I'm going back in time. There was like a preschool that I went to before that, and that was co-ed. Yeah, I got bullied there horribly because there's always someone like, it's like The Simpsons, which is an older reference. I know you might not know what The Simpsons is.
Listen, I'm not 15, okay? I know what The Simpsons is.
But Lisa, she comes
I'm not
up
strictly on TikTok, okay? I understand.
I'm not sure I believe you.
I grew up watching The Simpsons.
So when Lisa comes up with these, she figures out that nerds have like that smell and bullies can just sense it. Yeah. It's like a pheromone, and that's very much what it felt like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's like any bit of like vulnerability, or if it's not, maybe that's not even the right word. It's like a bully. If you want to get into it, like they have something inside of them that they don't feel good about. They want to take it out on someone else. They see that they can get away with it. If they'll push on someone that they see that they can.
Oh yeah, and they definitely could do that to me because I wouldn't know what they were doing and I wouldn't have any skills to try and stop it. So, yeah, school. I just remember it feeling like hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hated it. I begged my parents not to go to the all-girls school anymore, and I thought maybe if I go to public school in high school, that will make it better. It did not make it better. It just was a different kind of terrible experience.
What was the day-to-day like? It sounds like bullies were a problem when you were younger. What was like the day-to-day things like what was your experiences like?
It was really hard for me to stick to that same routine everybody else had. So like having to leave my house every day didn't feel good at all because you're out of your comfort zone. And not knowing I was autistic, I didn't know that the reason I'm getting anxious and upset is because there's so many sounds, you know, and like the other girls in school, when girls get together, I don't know if you've ever noticed when girls get together and they start to talk like that. Yeah, it's a whole bunch of little ones doing that. And so that's a lot of noise and a whole bunch of sensory stuff. And then your day is under the whim of somebody else, especially when you're really little in school. Like, you don't have a choice over where you're going or why.
Nothing, yeah.
You know, and then sometimes they leave you sitting on the floor in the gymnasium, like cross-legged for some sort of, you know, service or get-togethers. And you're like, why am I here for so long? It feels like 3 years.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of that. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's where I learned to sit still and stuff, because if I would have been stimming and stuff in the middle of that, the bullying would have been worse, I think.
Right.
I mean, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it would have been worse.
Right. Once you started stimming and like throwing elbows.
Yeah.
Throwing punches, you know.
You know, it might have kept me safer.
Yeah.
Allow children to stim. Keep them safe.
Yeah.
This is the message.
Start doing wild stuff. Get too close, you get hurt.
Yeah.
How was high school? Junior high school?
That was worse because I went to like public school, so now there were boys involved who in high school make no sense anyways. Mm-hmm. So there was that level of like not understanding what was going on and not understanding if someone was interested in me or not interested in me. And that was the whole, it was a bit of a mess because you end up like with someone they follow you around and you're like, is this my friend? Are they? And then you find out like 3 months later they were interested and you're going, well, I don't understand. I wouldn't have hung out with you that much if I would have thought that you were thinking this for 3 months. Like, it was not any more fun in high school. And I ended up doing like post-secondary stuff, but I couldn't stick with it. It was just too much to stay organized. I found out last year I have ADHD too, so it's no wonder I couldn't stay on top of everything because I didn't have any supports to do it. And I must have had like over 30 jobs by the time I hit 36. Because I would start something and then I could do it for 3 months, and for 3 months I could pretend to be one of you, and then I couldn't do it anymore. So I, rather than have a meltdown at work, I would just say, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
And I would find the next thing.
It must have been odd. Like, again, just not understanding and switching between jobs. And
yeah, well, that was part of the thing that made me feel like a failure, because I was looking at everybody else that had done things or have like grown up at the same time as me, and they're all doing things, Mm-hmm. They've had a family, or they've started a business, or they have a great career, and they're moving up through the levels of what you're supposed to do. And I just stayed stuck there. I said to someone, like, it's like if we're all flying kites in a field, and some people have got their kites like way up in the air and they're having a great time and they're doing tricks with them. And they're the same people I started the kite flying class with, but I'm still stuck on the ground and I can't get it to do what everybody else is doing. It's an infuriating feeling. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because you get jealous of them because, jealousy is that feeling of like, I would really like for myself the thing that you have, but I didn't know how to get it. Mm-hmm. So I was mad at myself all the time before I knew.
Yeah. Imagine it's kind of like, why can't I just do that? Or why can't I be like that?
Yeah. I really wanted to be able to do what other people were able to do so that I could have the things in my life that they were able to have. Mm-hmm. Because with having a job comes financial security and comes all of those things. And I've never been that person. Mm-hmm. Like if I didn't have my husband who has a great job, I would probably have been in trouble a lot of times. Like, I'm really fortunate like that. But yeah. And he's been really supportive as I, like, you know, go between all these different jobs. And he's always like, you'll get him next time.
So how did it, so you went to post-secondary, and then you kind of transitioned into jobs.
Yeah. And I would try and go back to school because I noticed that people who had done well, they had an education, and my dad always said, you got to get an education. So I kept taking runs at going to school. I'd be like, well, working's not working. I need to get a better job. Well, to get a better job, this job will definitely work. When I can get, that's what I could do. Yeah, somehow that's going to work for me. And I would like need a course to do it or something. So I would take another run at school, and then that wouldn't work out. And I'd be like, well, it wasn't for me. It definitely was never for me. That's not me. And then I'd find the next thing. Just lying to myself the whole time because it's all you can do. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, knowing the lowest common denominator in this not working is me.
How did you feel when you found out, like, when you got diagnosed? I guess, how did that come about?
I just found a pamphlet that had all the symptoms of autism in women, which are a lot different than the symptoms of autism in men. And
really?
Oh, yeah. Like, you know, you always hear about, like, the little boy that's into train sets.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's the autistic kid because he keeps talking about the trains or, you know, the times, or he watches the dryer spin all the time. But for me, you know, with a girl, you don't notice as much because it's like she knows every breed of horse. It's not that unusual for a little girl to know a lot about horses or to be really into horses. Like, they're not, the interests that we pick will be more socially acceptable because we are trying to fit in, because groups of girls can be really difficult. So yeah. I'm not going to go and pick something like space exploration to be into if everybody else isn't. I mean, I might, but as a girl, it's more common to be into very girly interests in a very dedicated way. So you don't necessarily notice as much.
It sounds like maybe more like social, interested in more social things. It's more socially dependent.
Yeah, and I'm not sure why that is. I'm not sure if, like, because girls kind of get, like, I don't know if it's just, you know, that you have to fit in with other women in order to have a good time in that other, yeah. So I don't know, are men like that? Like, if you don't get along with them, like, they go after you, or do they just leave you be?
No, I think it's different.
Yeah.
I think it's much
That's why
different.
I hang out with mostly dudes, because it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Autistic women have, like, really male brains, too.
Yeah.
Like, you're tomboyish a lot of the time. We don't get into all the other girly things that everybody else does, like wearing makeup and all the clothes, and some do.
I think that's, like, the one measurable difference between the personalities of men and women is that men are a little bit more likely to be interested in things where women are more interested in people. It's like the one difference.
That's probably true. Maybe that's why I don't fit in with women so much, is because I'm more interested in things than other people and what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I'm never having the same conversations about, like, what's going on socially and keeping up with all that stuff and the ins and outs of how all that's working, because I just want to talk to you about my knitting. You know, or like let's talk about comedy stuff, because we do stand up together, and that's one of my interests, so that I just want to talk about the things I'm into, and I don't like talking about who said what to who and who did what why. And yeah, I guess girls do really like that.
Yeah,
they don't talk to me a lot, so I don't really know. If any women are looking for a friend, I find it's really good to pick the people in life who, like, want to latch on to you right away. Yeah. So we should find me one of those by asking on this podcast.
Like, in terms of a girlfriend?
Yeah.
That latch on to you right away?
Yeah, that's always, you know, that's the best way to make friends.
That's almost like almost like meeting you where you are. Like, I don't want to like intrude, be friends, and this person's like, we're gonna be friends.
Yeah. This is happening now.
We're friends now.
There's no prequel. This is not.
No. We're friends now.
We're just opening in the middle of the book, right?
Yeah. No, that makes sense, though.
It was always like my friends growing up, though, because I had so much trouble making friends that the one person who wanted to be my friend, I would go, oh, great.
Yeah.
Sometimes that person was not a great choice to have as a friend.
Maybe like the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Every time.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
It's interesting, like, I work with kids for a few years, and you even see it in like young kids, like 7, 9, like all young kids, like the boys are just running around being crazy, playing. They're kind of interested in like whether it's like Lego toys or like a game. They don't even really care who's around them. They're just more interested in the things.
Mm-hmm.
And the girls from a young age, I noticed, were like they're very socially dependent. Like they would have a group and everyone would kind of like have their spot in the group and they would like do things together.
Now, what happens to
social.
the girl who wants to play the Legos?
The girl, sometimes there's, the girl that wants to play Legos more and she hangs out with the boys. Or maybe there's...
See, times have progressed.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, it wasn't that way at all.
But, I mean, that's not really as common. Like, most of the time, it's like the boys are doing that, the girls are doing that.
Yeah, they do very different things naturally. I worked as a crossing guard for 3 months, and believe it or not, it wasn't a long job that I had.
Crossing guard where?
When I lived in Guelph and in Ontario. And, yeah, I would watch, like, the groups of boys and girls come out of the school, and they did behave very differently.
The little boys are like wild animals. They're like wrestling each other, and they're much more physical. And I understand them. I enjoyed working them because I understand because I was like that when I was a young kid.
Yeah.
And the girls were very, very social. Like they would do things together all the time. They would be like making certain things. And they'd all be doing it the same way, or they'd be doing like a puzzle together. They'd playing a game together.
Yeah.
And they would play games and stuff too. But I mean, or they would do gymnastics and they'd be all like doing the same things. And it's like,
there was the other problem is autism causes, I can't remember the exact terminology for it, but like when you helped me like figure out some exercises before with like workout stuff. And I said like, they have to be symmetrical on both sides of my body because if one arm is going here and one leg is going here, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I have really poor awareness of where my limbs are when they move away from my torso. So when every other kid was doing gymnastics and stuff, I was the one that looked like that fat hamster doing like one somersault and getting dizzy when I sat up. Like I was not good at it at all. So yeah, didn't join in well with reindeer games.
Reindeer, Red Rover didn't go well.
Oh God, no.
You call Katherine over.
Yeah, we would play like soccer, and you have to dribble the ball with your feet. What a nightmare that is.
Yeah, that's.
They stole it from me so easily because I'm trying to I couldn't move very quickly and keep it between my feet.
Right.
I lose it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to kick a soccer ball with 2 feet.
So there's really nothing I could do to hang out with everybody else like that kids want to do.
Maybe skipping. That could be like symmetrical. Should we get into skipping?
Jump rope for heart. I think I was pretty good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a solo sport though. You know, it's not like you call up a girlfriend and you're like, want to come over today and skip?
Well, unless you get those big skips and there's multiple people in there, you know?
That wasn't happening. That requires a large degree of coordination. That is a team sport.
Yeah.
Double Dutch, no.
Double Dutch.
No. With the 2 ropes?
Yeah. Oh, that's even harder.
Yeah. I couldn't do the 1 rope. I was the kid who would run up trying to get into it and then just stop.
Yeah.
Like abruptly, like stop. Like the high jump.
Yeah.
I would run up to the high jump and give up.
That was me, by the way, in the skip ropes. When I was 7 and when I was like 23 working with kids. I still couldn't do it. Still couldn't figure it out. So.
You're making me feel a little bit better. There's one movement you can't do that I can.
Kids make it look so easy too. Like the double Dutch, they just like jump in. They're like skipping around, like singing a song and clapping. I just like get like 2 jumps in. I'm like, God damn it.
Oh, you got 2.
Yeah.
Well, I've never done a single jump in a 3-person jump rope scenario. Yeah. I have never managed a single hop. This is getting sad. I was feeling good at the beginning of this, but now like depression is setting in as I realize the things I have not achieved and won't achieve.
This is actually called Mattys Jump Rope Podcast. Interview you on your jump rope history.
Strangely, I'm very good at roller skating.
Really?
Yeah, I played roller derby for a while.
That's the one with the 4 on the bottom?
Yeah. I used to pick sports or things to do where you had instant friends. So, like, if you join a league or something, like, they kind of have to be nice to you.
Yeah.
Even if you're incredibly awkward and have not started social skill therapy yet.
Yeah.
Like, they can't really kick you out.
Isn't it, do you, like, tackle people? Isn't it aggressive?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very. I was lucky I never broke anything.
Yeah.
I did see people break a lot of things. But, yeah, not coordinated around other people. So I was one of the fastest roller skaters in Southern Ontario at the time. one of the worst roller derby players in Southern Ontario at the time. Because, like, the hitting thing. Yeah, like, we have videos of me jumping out of the way of people. Really? Like, so many photos where I'm leaping in midair before someone could hit me.
That's probably why I didn't get hurt.
Probably. It was very smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why all my bones are still intact.
Yeah. Leaving your ego at the door, getting out of the way.
It's autistic logic, man. It's like, I'm not getting hurt for this. It makes no sense.
For this?
Yeah, no.
Just trying to make some friends.
Spock wouldn't do this. I'm not going to do this.
So, remind me, how does that game work? Is there an objective? Like, what's the game?
You're trying to score points, and there's a lot of convoluted rules now. And
is there a ball, or is there or what do you do?
No, there are no balls in roller derby.
Is it a track? Is it a flat surface?
Yeah, it's on a flat track, and you're trying to, it's not even worth trying to explain it. Like, when they try and explain it, they have to have, like, little, like, colored markers and, like, a screen and a video thing. And basically, you're trying to get your person to get more points and more laps around the track than their person.
Oh, so there's one person on each team that has to go around the track?
Yeah.
Scores points?
Yeah, so you're trying to help your person through and stop their person from coming through the pack of people.
So it's kind of like tackle, capture the flag, but you're doing laps.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
With a lot of really emo women.
I want to see that. I hope that happens close by soon.
It does.
Yeah?
I think their league is gone now, but they had one for a while. There's some in Summerside.
Of course.
Yeah.
There is.
Because they're tough there.
Yeah. Different breed. No, I want to see that. That sounds interesting and exciting. Yeah. And entertaining.
But yeah, instant groups of friends were good. Like in high school, I joined the youth group at the church because, what are they going to do? Say we don't want her around? Yeah. Yeah. My parents were like, she's found religion. And I was like, no. I found people who will tolerate my presence.
Right. And how did that go?
The same as everywhere else.
Yeah.
It's just they couldn't swear at you or do as many like mean things. But it was the same thing where I never fit in. Could never manage to fit in. I really irritated a girl there because I would she saw it as, and she was like, we're really good friends now and we laugh about it. But I would I forgot what I was going to say and what I was talking about.
Just now?
Yeah.
You're talking about...
No, now I remember. Now I remember where I was. Okay. That's good. Like, my brain just, like, there was a switch, and it shut off for a minute. For a moment. But, yeah, she thought that I was copying her, and it must have looked like that to her, but it was really that she was social, and she was able to do all these things, and I wanted to be able to do it, so I was, not on purpose, but I was just doing what worked for her, hoping it would work for me. But it ended up very much, especially in high school, when you want to have your own identity, going, stop copying me. Right. Yeah. So that's still how my social stuff is. Like, it's cobbled together from watching what other people do. Right. Like, a lot of the time when we do stand-up stuff, like, I always think, like, be like Joe or, like, be like Brad. Yeah. Yeah. And I try and emulate the people who act in a way that I think makes them, like, they carry themselves nicely. Yeah. So I try and do the same things that they do. Because that's the only way I know how to interact is to pick off behaviors off of other people. I feel like everyone does that probably on a more micro level, but it sounds like maybe it's more macro for you. Yeah, because when I'm at home, like I won't talk all day, at all. Like even like I get like selective mutism, and I just like I couldn't talk if I wanted to, especially if I'm stressed out. I spend like most of my time not talking, so when I'm outside of the house, it's just things pieced together from TV shows and my jokes and trying jokes out on people. Humor is a great way for people not to notice that you're different. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Because all you have to do is make them laugh. Yeah. It's a great way to kind of make relationships, like make a connection rather. Yeah. Quickly. And comedy is great for that too, because as long as you are funny, that's all that matters. Yeah. I mean, like, that's entrance to the club of you get to hang out, unless you're an absolute pain in the butt. Like, you get in the club as long as you're funny. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You just have to be undeniably funny and you're in. Like, it's not, other things get overlooked. Yeah. It doesn't matter. You were funny. Yeah. And even if you're not and you're trying, you're probably still in the club. You're trying your best.
you know?
You're fine. It's okay. You're doing really well.
Yeah.
You sounded like you were feeling bad.
Yeah. No. Not me. I mean, yeah, me. That's actually what I meant when I started.
Yeah.
I mean, when everyone starts, but I think like it's a very accepting community, even if like you're just like starting out and like you're not doing your best stuff, which you never will be. It's very accepting. That's what I found about it anyway.
Yeah, and see, it was different for me because we both started on the same night, and I spent the first 6 months every Monday evening, like once a week, sitting by myself.
Yeah.
Like nobody had any space for me at their tables. Nobody wanted to have a conversation with me. So I had to spend 6 months watching how everybody else behaved and then starting to do what they did.
Right.
And like I wasn't getting shows at the beginning and everybody else was. I can remember talking to you because we started at the same time. So I kind of felt like I could talk to you a bit.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to you, like, why are these other people getting shows and I'm not? What am I missing? I don't understand. Yeah. Like, I'm just as funny as them. I couldn't figure out how to get in.
Yeah.
It turned out the way to get shows is to ask.
Yeah.
I was missing the key.
That's funny.
You know, but I don't know those finer social points that other people would know. Like, I think, well, I don't want to bother them.
Yeah.
What if they don't like me?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't call.
Yeah. I would like, so how was your transition from 35 around then when you find out you have it until now? Because I mean, we're talking about this a lot and, you know, you're a good friend and like you're telling the story now when you first started, but like how I see you is like, coping with this like very, very well, where like, I probably wouldn't have known if he didn't tell me. And even after you tell me, I don't think about it. It's not like it's obvious at all. It's like because you're saying like, it's from all this struggle to the point now where it's like, it seemed pretty normal. I mean.
You see what I mean though?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that difference between what's normal and what's abnormal behavior.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I guess normal is in like the majority of people are not seen stimming and looking away during conversations for sure.
Yeah. I guess what I meant by that was like your level of coping from the outside, and you've talked about it already from like, you know, when you're home, you don't necessarily talk to people and stuff, but from the outside, it's like really, really good.
Yeah, it is good for me not to talk to people during the day at home. Like that's not a bad thing. That's how I am. That is how my person likes to be.
Yeah.
And I'm not fighting that anymore. So I stopped fighting myself. And that was what made it easier because I knew who I was now. And I still like faltered around a bit. And I still tried to go back to school one more time and then went, okay, like know yourself. But I got a specialized autism therapist and she worked with me on social skills. And like she would teach me things I didn't know and I would feel so stupid thinking about every other time in life that I had not understood this piece of information and had gotten myself into trouble.
Right.
So she taught me a lot of stuff and that made it a lot easier. I started seeing her around the same time I started doing stand-up and I didn't know I couldn't get shows.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to do this. So I started talking to her and saying, like, what am I missing that I need to do, you know, in order to fit in a bit better. I used to think, and this is so embarrassing to say out loud, but, you know, in case someone's listening to it or watching it, like, I used to think that just because someone was talking to you with a nice tone of voice and a smile on their face, that they liked you.
Right.
Apparently that's not true. Apparently people can dislike you a great deal, but still be nice when they're around you.
Right.
And smile. So I would think that everything was fine with all these different people, and I would go about things like, we're really good friends.
Right.
You know, and then I had to learn there's levels of friends. And you don't have to tell people different things just because they ask, and you don't have to get close to people if you don't want to, and not everybody's your friend.
Right. I'm thinking like is maybe if there was someone listening kind of in a similar situation with, is there anything that you learned like with those social skills that sticks out that were like the big pieces for you?
We put numbered levels to friends.
Okay.
So like number 1 would be my husband. It's like a pyramid. So there's only one at the top, which is fine because he's awesome. And then under that would be like really close friends. And maybe you have 1 or you have 2 of those. And then underneath that, you've got a long list of like acquaintances, which are people that you talk to or maybe colleagues that you interact with and stuff like that. But if you had a problem, you wouldn't go to them.
Right.
So it was like, what information goes to what people at different levels.
Right.
And what people are privy to, and that also that people can move up and down those levels.
Yeah.
I mean, not that like I'm demoting people or something, but
Yeah.
you can do that if you're not comfortable with someone anymore so much, you're allowed to move it down a level.
Yeah.
It sort of helped me to organize what was going on with people, who I should be socializing with and how.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
So that was pretty helpful. The other big piece was learning that people lie a lot of the time when they talk. I don't lie. I can lie about like little things, like just incidental things, like, that shirt looks great when it doesn't. Like, I know I can do that because I know it has a good purpose, but lying to be mean, I am pretty much incapable of doing it, which is another thing that people can really take advantage of you for. So when you don't do something, like you don't have a behavior, you don't expect other people to do it too, because that's just not your reality. So I didn't realize other people can lie when they're talking to you with a smile on their face. I would just accept everything everybody said as truth.
Right. That's how you interact. So you expect that from everyone else. Or you just thought that was kind of...
It's not that you expect it. It's just you just figure that's the way everything is.
Right.
You wouldn't assume that anyone would do anything different.
Right.
Even though I've seen TV and movies and like I know people lie, I didn't really put it together.
Right. Well, that sounds like a huge shift in your life to be able to understand all these things.
Yeah, it is, because now I have a comfortable life where stand-up comedy is one half of my career. That's one business, and I've been knitting because that's one of my hyper-fixation things ever since I was probably 9 years old. So I started a knitwear business this year. So I get to sit at home and make sweaters and all sorts of creative stuff and have fun with that all day long, which makes me so happy. People pay good money to have those things done, so it's great. So I stopped fighting myself and feeling like if I didn't do a 9-to-5 job, I was a failure. It's not true.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, there's more than one way to do things.
I think the opposite is true, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, and we don't really put it forth to, well, maybe they do now, like with kids, but like when I was growing up, it was just, it was expected that I would go to university and I would go and get a job and I would work in an office. Like my parents had an office and they had me working there when I failed school the first time. So they had me come work at their office and like, I hated it. I hated it the whole time. Like the politics of talking to people, and women in offices can be awful.
Can they?
Yeah, they can be really bad.
How so? Tell us.
They're catty women sometimes, and you're stuck with them all day. And then I can do things really, really quickly. Like that's a great thing about being autistic, is when I know how to do a task, I can do it really, really fast and very, very accurately, like a computer, like Data from Star Trek. It's fun.
Yeah.
So I would get given a task, and I could complete a task that usually would take 8 hours in 2 hours, and then I would send it in. Yeah. And that makes me look like a go-getter Keener who's trying to outdo Lisa in the corner, who's been there for 5 years, and who is this girl trying to show her up, Like you get advice for work when you're autistic, which I know now and I didn't know before, which was if you finish it in 2 hours, keep it for 6.
Yeah.
Like you do not need to look like, because it wasn't done to outshine other people. It's just if I'm going to do a task, I'm going to do it this way, and it works out that way.
Mm-hmm. That's a whole thing. That's a whole thing that I think I've heard a lot of people talk about that happens. Where people will have like a certain amount of work to do in a week, and that same thing will happen. Like, say they have 8 hours of work, but they get it done in 2.
Yeah.
Then they just fuck around for 6 because they don't want to have more work. They don't want to have 4 times the work.
See, that's really intelligent. I never did that. So when I was at jobs, they would keep giving me more and more and more. So people start disliking you more, and you're busier and more stressed out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, though, for an entrepreneur or someone that's doing their own thing,
it was perfect.
It's literally just the more that you do, the more that you potentially get compensated, right?
Yeah, now I'm doing stuff for me.
Yeah.
Which is helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is not getting compensated for it and just doing more work.
That's true. Because especially when you're having fun with something. If you're an entrepreneur and you like your business, it's really hard to turn it off and go like, well, because it's also my hobby and I'm having fun painting with the yarn. I don't want to stop. Okay, you've been doing it since 8 this morning. It's midnight. You need to stop.
That's really awesome that you're doing that.
Yeah, thank you. I made this sweater.
Oh, that's really nice.
Thank you. It has pretty cables on the back, but I'm not going to twirl.
So you've been doing that since you were young?
Yeah, since I was about 9-ish. Yeah.
I remember the first night we did comedy, you were knitting.
It's a great way to stim in plain sight.
Yeah.
Because my hands can be busy, but I'm doing something. So it's better than sitting there doing this, patting my hands, or here's one. Like, it's better than doing that because that really wasn't going to make any friends.
Yeah.
Like, I'm friends with Joe now, but can you imagine Joe trying to make friends with me if, I'm sitting at the table, like, doing this before? Like, no, it'd take a few more months, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember how nervous you were that night, the first time?
So nervous.
Yeah.
I was sitting there and over in my head, I was going, what have I done? What have I done? What have I done? Why? What is wrong with you? What have I done?
Yeah.
It was terrifying.
That just sticks out into my mind so much because, like, I remember how nervous I was, and then I was talking to you a little bit, and it was your first time. We chatted a little bit, and then you're like, I'm just going to prepare, and then you were over there knitting, and I was like, part of me was like, that's probably helping her being with the nervousness, but the other part of me is like, I couldn't knit right now. Like, she's like a friggin' locked in. She's a savage. It's like,
it's mindless though.
Yeah. I don't know. I was just like, to me at the time, that was like, she's doing something I couldn't do right now.
It just makes things easier. It keeps my
You seemed calm. Like, look from the outside. Like, you seem calm. I was like,
see, that's the social mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would make a great actress. Someone should hire me for a major role.
Well.
Katherine Cairns plays a neurotypical person. Like, I'm really good at it.
Put it in the universe. You never know.
Yeah. But if I have to spend long periods of time with someone, it's harder to hold it in. Like, I went to travel over across with another comedian last weekend. Yeah. And we're sitting, so it's like 3 hours in the car. And I have a weird tick where if I remember doing something where I don't like how I acted, like I do, like, I shake myself. I don't know why. I haven't been able to stop it yet. I'm working on it. But so I was sitting in the car with this really cool person sitting next to me, and I'm trying not to for 3 hours go like when I feel like I want to, because he's going to go, what is wrong with you?
Right.
Yeah. So it can be really difficult to hold it in for longer periods of time. Sometimes comedians wonder, like, why I don't want to travel with everybody long distances. And I'm like, it's not you, it's me. I'm not good if I'm around you without any break for this long. This is a veneer, a facade.
So, what's been the biggest thing that's helped you? It sounds like staying home and doing your thing, knitting, like having time to yourself.
Yeah.
That's huge.
That was a big part of it. And I just started doing that through the last lockdown. And my therapist said to me, do you think this is any part of the reason you're feeling better? Because I had stopped, like, messaging people so much on my phone too, and I was doing it more at certain times of the day, or at some point I just wasn't doing it at all. Like, I just took a break, and I started to feel a lot better. And it's because it was just a lot less interaction, which is great because that can be really confusing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was social stuff all the time, and I was getting caught up with it because it's comedy and booking things, and you talk to people and you have to network and that sort of thing. But it was hurting my head a bit. So so now I do business during business times, and I network during, like, certain hours, and it's not constantly going. So I got a lot of quiet time, which is really good.
I guess what I meant earlier was, like, you're really good at all this stuff. Like, you're good at comedy, you're good at networking, you're good at making shows, like
Copycatting. Yeah. I'm just a mockingbird. I'm just doing what everybody else, like, my material is original.
Yeah.
On the other hand, that's probably cobbled together from all sorts of things that I've seen everybody else do.
Yeah, but that's
how that works, though.
Yeah, that's how it works.
I guess maybe it's the one thing where I'm allowed to not copy, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm allowed to sort of take on traits and things I see from other people and what they're doing, and as long as I'm not stealing it from them, it's not wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I think on some level it's like interpretation, right? Like interpretation of your experiences and then people and what they did. And
I get to craft an entire personality when I'm up there, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So comedy has been a big thing for you too?
Yeah, it changed a lot of things for me because I realized that I could talk in front of people and they would listen. Because before that, I didn't think anybody cared about. My husband does care about what I have to say, unless he's really tired. But like I would think, like, you know, other than that, nobody really cares about what I have to say because I couldn't connect with anybody. But then when I started doing comedy, even though no one else was talking to me there, at least not very much, like I wasn't social with everybody else. It was 5 to 7 minutes where I had everyone's attention. And when I did well, they were enjoying my company. You know, it was like being at a party and everyone's laughing at your jokes instead of just the two people who've chosen to stand next to you and get to hear all the fun jokes. Because they're not treating you like a social pariah. So that started, and I started to learn I had a voice, and that was a big change.
It's powerful stuff.
Like a big change. And then I was able to speak up for myself with different things that I was doing. It was more easy for me to make boundaries with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made me feel like I had some agency and power, which was badly needed.
Yeah.
Because you would never believe when you see me up there that I was completely mousy.
Yeah.
Because it's not the same anymore. But
I guess that's really, like, I keep saying this, but that's what I mean. Like, you really have a voice. Like,
I get to get up there and I get to tell a whole room of people, pay attention to me now. Like, that is powerful. It's fun.
even like, socially and stuff too. Like, I think it sounds like maybe that developed through comedy, but
it's funny how like people perceive you when they look at you versus how you perceive yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm still like, I have all those millions of thoughts going through my head of like, am I looking him in the eye properly? Am I doing this? Am I turned the right way? Are my feet doing the thing where they're facing him to show that I'm engaged and not turn to the side? And put your arms down and don't fold them. And I'm still doing all of that, so I feel completely uncool.
Yeah.
And like anytime someone's like, yeah, you seem like pretty put together, I'm like, okay, I did it.
Yeah.
They believed it.
Here to tell you that you're very cool.
Thank you. It took a long time to get here, but I'm finally cool. At 41, a 41-year-old cool person. That is. You're waiting all talk to press that button.
I was.
Thank you for not pressing the crickets.
I forget which one it is. I don't want to mess it
It's the purple one there.
up.
Yeah, thank you. It goes on for a long time, too. They really want to let you know you're not funny.
Yeah.
It's not ending.
No, you're funny. We just kept going like 10 minutes. We're just sitting here waiting for it.
Comedian's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
10 minutes of crickets.
Crickets, yeah.
I did comedy in an open field. It was awful.
Did you?
No, I'm just pretending because of all the crickets that you would hear.
I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like your husband's a big part of like your support.
Yeah, for sure. There are certain kinds of people, like you're one of them. And like I have other friends, especially in comedy, who are like that, where they just don't see that I'm different. And yeah, I have a good mask in the rest of it, but I didn't used to when I met him. And it just doesn't matter. Like the differences mean that I'm interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, I'm not just talking about hair and makeup and what I did with Sarah the other day.
Yeah.
You know, I'm all excited about like some book on dinosaurs that I read. I don't know.
Yeah.
And he also really values the fact that I'm honest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to cheat on him. I'm incapable of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's nice to know, I guess, that you have that loyalty and that trust with somebody. And
Yeah.
he's just always been really good to me. I wouldn't be able to be in a house and have all those nice things and, you know, have a life the way I do if he hadn't have been so supportive.
That's awesome.
And if he would have needed a woman to, you know, act in a more traditional way and go out and get a job and that sort of thing. And if he would have really needed that, then we couldn't have stayed together because I couldn't have done it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, it's almost like, yeah.
But yeah, he's really supportive. The only thing he can't do, he's not allowed to become a stand-up comedian.
No, they're not allowed?
No.
Why not?
When we're at shows, like when I've gone to see other comedians' shows and they get introduced after, they will assume that he's the comedian.
Oh.
They'll be like, how long have you been doing stand-up for? I'm like,
Uh,
what? Really? Girls do it too, I promise.
do it well, too.
Oh, thank you. Well, some of us do.
Yeah,
I
listen,
can't really think of
everybody in
anyone
the
around who
world
doesn't do a
can't-
good job.
Everybody in the world can't do it well. There's at least one girl that can't do it well. There's
Yeah.
at least one guy.
There's
that
at least
can't do
one guy who can't do it well.
it. Yeah,
Everybody in Charlottetown's pretty good.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know why we were said that we were the least funny province in Canada.
yeah. Maybe because like most of us didn't have a mic until recently, and what we were really doing was we were just getting drunk somewhere. That's why we're not that funny. We're just off drunk in someone's kitchen and not with a mic. Like
We should take mics with us more places.
we should.
Force
Yeah.
people to listen.
Record the chat in the kitchen at 3 a.m.
Yeah, it's going to be
talking
good.
about potatoes and your father and the arsenals and stuff.
That's what you were doing last night.
Yeah.
Okay. Mattys night yesterday.
Maddie's night. Maddie's kitchen night.
Mattys kitchen party.
Maddie's kitchen party.
It's not much of a party.
Not much of a party, just me.
Talking about potatoes with my dad.
Yeah. He went to sleep. I was just talking to myself.
The truth comes out. You see, people lie.
Yeah.
Now we know.
Um,
Further proof.
if you had to give advice to someone that was going through similar struggles that you were, what would the advice be?
If you can afford it, find a person to talk to. And like a lot of them will operate on a sliding scale. I just went online and found a few people that said they were autism therapists, and I liked the way that they described themselves. And I did interviews with them where I asked them questions, and I got a feel for if I wanted to talk to them and who. So I picked the right person to work with, and then I stuck with it for a couple of years, and it helped a lot. So if you don't need like that official diagnosis necessarily either to talk to someone and say, this feels like who I am, because there's no medication for it.
Right.
Right. So usually I tell people, like, if you see the list of things and it feels completely like you, it probably is. Like, I got officially assessed, but I knew that this was who I was way before I had the assessment. I just had it done for school and stuff because I needed it to be on paper.
Right.
But if you know, you just know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't need the official diagnosis. You don't need to go like through the official path. So someone goes like, yes, you definitely are, unless it makes you happy and like it, but you know yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just getting therapy from somebody who knew what they were doing and who actually likes autistic people.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and get her to come out here and do a conference next year.
That'd be really good. That'd be awesome.
Like a little autism education thing for
That-
people who are autistic, like different things that you might want to know.
That's a really good message too, because PEI, I think it's good news, like to hear you say that and people to hear that, because it can take such a long time to see a psychiatrist and get diagnosed.
Oh yeah.
Like it can be a year and a half, and then it's like
But,
all that.
If you're an adult, you don't, unless you need the piece of paper to say something to give to somebody, like it, it
Yeah.
doesn't stop you from talking to somebody and go like, this makes sense. I think this is me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because even if you're not, if you have 75% of those traits, someone can help you to deal with that.
Yeah. Talking to someone's going to be helpful either way.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, help yourself and listen to what they say.
Yeah.
Don't get stuck in all that negative thinking.
Yeah.
Which is easier said than done. It took me a few years, but
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on and sharing. This was really fun.
thank you for having me on your podcast in South Carolina.
Yeah, we'll be back in PEI next week. So thanks
Right
for
now we're
tuning in,
off to do
guys.
some horseback riding.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you.
Fist bump.
Bye.